This is her last year.
We're good now. If you can just turn your mics on, please.
Call this work session to order for Monday, August 10th. Do we have any speaker?
No one has signed up.
Okay, thank you. That said, for information is from Carol Pop, the Teaching and Learning Curriculum Indicator Report.
Good evening. Okay, so it's been a big day today. We have our 6-8 teachers that were in training, so we're kind of just continuing from here. Please feel free to ask questions as we go. You don't have to wait till the end. Feel free to jump in. I tried to pull some of the highlights. This is the indicator report from last school year, and as you know, we had 2 part-time teaching directors too, so this had input from Jill and Ryan on this as well. So this is kind of over the last year that I'm looking at.
Does that sometimes?
Is the little segment actually visible?
It is. Let's see.
Are you gonna have to?
I will do it for now. Sometimes it starts working again, but for some reason it does this.
Pretty much we're connected to all of the strategic directions, so you'll see those in here in this presentation. Oh, yeah. Did you do it or what?
You are doing it now.
Okay. So this is just a list of our staff department information. I do want you to know, and I want people at home watching, that looks like a lot of people, but a lot of those people are just kind of wearing one hat or like a 0.1 or 0.2 FTE. So Ryan and Jill are moving more into the support for K-5 in 6-12, so they still have a pretty big role. We still have Zach Erickson kind of helping us with some MTSS support. Christy Bachman is in that math science lead role. Brian Siegley is our gate coordinator right now. He's taking that on. We have Tanis, with director of our addition hopping program, and then Christina. We couldn't do any of this, who is our teaching and learning administrative assistant.
Carol, you with Kate?
Yes, gifted and talented education. Thank you. And I also, one of my roles also, I'm still the district literacy lead, and I'll present on that later, but I'm also overseeing our multi-lingual learners as well. So student impact, for those of you that don't know, we run a resort in Wisconsin, so I'm in and out. And so I don't always see the enrollment numbers, but I do know that Linda has been kind of overwhelmed in a good way. We've been seeing that number for total students has gone up 20 in the last week. So I had to go in today and change some of the numbers. So as of right now, or as of last Friday, that's kind of where we sit for enrollment. A couple of them are estimates, ALC and IEC, because sometimes we don't really know like what we're going to get there. Good news, that's really good news. So here's a quick narrative. I wanted to pull out some big things from teaching and learning. Obviously, teaching and learning is what we do. So I can spend all night talking to you about this. In fact, if you want to, we can sit and talk about teaching and learning if you want. But I want to highlight, it should say K-12 math adoption, not K-2, so that's a typo on mine. But I want to talk about the math adoption. I want to talk about like our inventory process a little bit, and I want to talk about walkthroughs a little bit with you. So as you know, we came to you in June to approve our new math curriculum, so K-12 illustrative math. Is district-wide. We're implementing, it's beginning this fall. Teachers, Ashley, as you asked earlier, teachers started their training on July 28th. We had 85% of our math teachers attend. Any teachers that didn't attend that will attend on August 26th during workshop week. Math materials are out in buildings. And again, thank you to Christina and to Christy and to Tara Erman from Big Fork, who kind of oversaw that down here, getting everything out in, inventoried, and back out again. And again, we're going to provide that consistent standards aligned math experience across the district for the first time ever. Implementation support. So the teachers have been working on pacing guides. So if they are in 9th grade math in Big Fork, what they're learning in Big Fork is the same thing that they're learning here in Grand Rapids. I like that smile, Melissa. Training is consistent, materials are consistent. One thing that was important to me was that we had equity. And if you're a teacher of 30 plus years like I am, you have lots of materials throughout the years. If your teacher has been teaching for just a few years, you might not have the same resources. So we made sure that we bought the same resources for everybody. So every student has all of that since we were able to do that. Professional learning will continue all year. So that professional learning will continue throughout the year on our professional development days. Our teachers will still have that continued learning and training, not only from the company, but from Compass at the MDE level and from the Northeast Service Co-op as well. And what's important there is moving it from just having a curriculum to really using it well. And that's what we saw with literacy, and we want to make sure that we're doing that. And then the focus moving forward is just to continue to build consistency while supporting teachers with that shift towards student thinking. So this math curriculum is problem-based learning. So it is not going to be just here are 100 math problems, please do that. I may, as we showed you in June, we kind of walked you through what some problems look like. It's going to be a shift. And we have to help students understand that and help families understand that as well. So that's our math adoption. That'll be ongoing. The inventory process, I haven't been able to talk to the whole group about this, but last fall, I did say to Mr. Gross, I said, it doesn't feel good to me that I can't tell you the board where's all the materials. It doesn't feel good to me. And I'm a word nerd, not a numbers person, but this job has forced me to be a numbers person. So before Kara left, we got an inventory system and we started the process of inventorying our K-8 literacy program. And we wanted to get that done before math started. It didn't quite happen. So it's right now happening kind of at the same time. So behind the scenes, a lot of inventory stuff happening. So we're getting everything organized and accountable. I'll show you a slide in a minute. All materials are being inventoried in Follett. They're assigned to teachers and clearly labeled by teacher, grade, and building. And I'll show you just a snippet of a report that I can pull. Classroom delivery, when we're done inventorying, we deliver them right back to the classroom, so teachers didn't have to do anything. They did have to box them up in May. Teachers, I apologize for that, but they will go back and they're all taken care of. So my building. What happened last year, people don't see what happens when school's getting ready to start. Christina and I were driving around the district trying to find math workbooks because nobody knew what was where. It could be in this closet or it could be in that closet, and that's also not a good use of time. So now in the system, we know what exactly is where. And if you're in the business world, you're thinking that's ridiculous that you wouldn't know that. But we do, and math did not leave until it was inventoried. So it got inventoried before it left. And then teacher verification. So teachers then will have checklists and have everything they need. And if they don't have it, they will reach out to the teaching and learning department. And then finally, a big initiative we've been working on over the last couple of years is walkthroughs. So in the classroom. So our walkthroughs are not the goal. The goal is stronger instruction. So we're going to do that by using kind of a one system across the district. And the principals have gone through training on that. Mr. Gross has gone through training on that. We talked about it, I think, at the last meeting with you. We're really excited to roll this out for the first time ever. Mr. Gross will be able to go to the dashboard and see where are walkthroughs happening, where are we strong, where do we need to get stronger. The purpose is just stronger instruction. We're going to have a consistent cycle that will be looked at the strategy team meetings and building level leadership team meetings, and we'll be using that just to make informed decisions and to be able to continue just to get better.
So in regards to this dashboard approach, right, does that mean that when they're doing walkthroughs, they're electronically entering the data right away rather than hand notes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So over the last 2 years, we've done a variety. We've used Google Forms, which didn't give us exactly what we needed. Feedback to teachers sometimes happened on a post-it note, sometimes happened in the hallway, sometimes happened via email, which is okay. But this system, Tom, will be immediate. So as soon as principals are done or ready to do it, and they hit send, it will go to the teacher, and there can be that communication, that two-way communication that sometimes doesn't happen. I do have a couple pictures I grabbed from the website for you to see on that too. So in alignment with the new math program, I took a few pictures during the trainings. And so that happened, like I said, on July 28th, getting started with IM, and 85% of our math teachers attended, which is huge. I think that's huge. And it says a lot about their commitment to the district and to our kids. One thing I do want to say, and it's a shameless plug, but we don't have enough meeting space in this district. So with all the meetings that we have come, we don't have enough meeting space. Sorry.
We're looking at our math, and like, I know last year for my grandson's class, right, they celebrated. And one of the elementary teachers kind of specialized more in reading and one more in math. So are we staying with that model?
That is the model at East. So that is the model at East, and we're staying there at East. Yeah.
So look at training for math. Are we strictly staying in that model for math for training also?
We are. We are for right now. However, teachers do know if there were to be a change, and they were teaching literacy this year, but next year they have to teach math, they will have to be trained next year. The teachers that went through the training are the teachers that will be teaching math this year. So this is just a quick snapshot as of last week, where we're at on inventory. So you can see there's almost, and we're not finished. We're not close to being finished yet. But we have almost $200,000 worth of inventory in, and then this is a report I can run by site, and then I can break it down even further by teacher, just to kind of give you an idea. It is not finished yet. The goal is by September 1st, and then yearly I would be able to come back to you and say, this is what we have. We've got the things. The next step to this is, okay, so now what? We have the inventory, and that's great, but what do we do if things go missing or are not treated well, etc.? I talked to teachers about this today. Teachers need to talk to students and families about good use of books. How do we treat books? What do we do? Because they're very expensive. Some of our books are over $20 just because they're high quality, complex texts. It's expensive. We can't replace them every year. Just an idea. We never had this before. And then here, just some snapshots from the tool that we're going to be using for walkthroughs. It's just 3 separate snapshots. On the left, you're going to see the protocols that we have in the system already. You can see at the top, morphology. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about my literacy plan, the science walkthrough document, CD walkthrough, Main Charlotte Danielson walkthrough, MDE literacy walkthrough tool that comes right from MDE. That's the one as the literacy lead that I will be using the most. The IM math reflection tool, that's for our new math program. Are we implementing it the way we need to? Archer, and we've talked to you about that before, but that's for best practices in the classroom, and then win wisdom. So those are all protocols that we have already built in there that principals will be able to pick when they're in a classroom. On the right, I just took a screenshot of what a principal would see. It says next up suggestions. This is from the ALC. So shout out to Erica, Olivia, and Bill if you're watching. So a principal would see this when they open the program, and it would say these are the next 3 that are up. There's no decision that has to be made. Those are just the next 3 that are up. If Eric is sick, they can snooze it, and the next person will come up. And it follows them on a rotation. And I'm really excited because I think that will help principals a lot. There's just a lot on their plates. And then, so our protocol, we're still working through that. We have a strategy meeting next week. We're going to finalize some of this. But for the most part, it's just following the Plan, Do, Study, Act model. So with planning, we're going to have principal coaching. They've already had coaching. We're going to embed that into our weekly principal meetings to do some practice. Then we'll do the walkthrough cycles, conducting those consistent walkthrough cycles, following the calendar, and then looking at that. Where do we need some professional development? What do we need to do? And then respond and adjust. And that's just going to continue. That's just what we're going to be. That's going to take us from good to great. So I'm excited about that. And it's not, like I said earlier, it's not about the walkthrough itself. It's just about improving instruction. And so every student, every classroom, every day. Not doing walkthroughs every day, like for a teacher, but I don't want to get teachers nervous that they're sitting. Questions about that? Okay, so evidence of success or improvement. So there's a picture from today's literacy training. Those are our 6A teachers and Brian DeRay, Ken DeCoster. So a lot of this evidence of success, I think we had in last year's presentation too, because it's still evidence of success. So consistent high quality literacy instruction implemented in K-8. I will address 9-12 in my literacy plan. Effective teacher training and ongoing support resulting in stronger instructional practices. Increased collaboration with other districts and state agencies, including MDE, Compass, and NESC. Stronger application of evidence-based practices across classrooms and grade levels. I think Mr. Gross has mentioned it before. If you get out and go look at classrooms, you feel like you're in the same district now in literacy and K, not like you're in several different districts. And notable growth in student writing following year 2 of our K-8 curriculum implementation. So I wanted to show you. So I was given these exemplars from Mrs. Shadeen. I did text her to make sure it was okay. I didn't hear back from her, so it's okay. Student names are off. But this is a 3rd grade writing sample. And so these are from different, but this is all, one is about Galileo, the other one is about Jacques Cousteau. But taking a look at that, a long time ago, people followed tradition and believed the earth was the center of the universe. But Galileo thought the sun was the center of the universe and was correct. And so they continue. Jacques Cousteau on the right. I'm telling you, as a 7th grade English teacher, if some of my 7th graders had written like this, I would have fallen over. This is 3rd grade. And I can tell you this kind of writing is happening in every K-8 classroom. And so here, I love this one too. So the painting on the right is The Voting Party by Mary Cassatt. 3rd grade, they also analyze art. But in The Voting Party by Mary Cassatt, the central message is the sea is beautiful and calm and peaceful. The artist showed this by using calm and soft lights and shades. The focal point is the man, because the black stands out against the soft pinks, purples, and blues. And this is after 2 years of our literacy curriculum. Very exciting. So another thing I want to highlight, again, we have to tell the story, or others will tell the story for us. So star reading is our internal measure. We give 3 times a year. And I had to pull the data for a literacy plan, and I thought this was great. So I want you to see last spring to this spring. You can look third grade to third grade, but they're not the same kids. So you could look. We were 61.3 last spring in third grade, and this year 63.9, so it grew. But what you need to look at is last year's third graders and this year's fourth graders who grew from 61.3 to 77.9. So in a year, and we didn't have a new curriculum, we didn't change buildings, we didn't have reading training, we had all of those things last year, so which is amazing. And then that fourth grade to fifth grade still went up also. It still went up, and that's as long as we're moving up, I'll take that 2.3. And this is just in third, fourth, and fifth grade, so I just want you to be able to see that. In my literacy plan, I'll address the older grades.
I do want to ask a question because that's phenomenal number change there. What do we feel is the background that that's when you compare year to year, that's
I agree.
mental rise right now.
Yeah.
And I don't take this the wrong way, but it concerns me about data when I look at data, right? When I see it.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what do we feel was the thing that did that? Okay, I mean, because I question a number when I see things like that.
And you should, because, and I'm glad you say that, because you can make this look however you want to, and I'm glad you're questioning that. However, what I will say is we have great, amazing teachers, right? That's to start. But also we are in the second year of a comprehensive curriculum where these students would have seen this now for 2 years in a row. I will say, if you're looking from fourth to fifth grade, I will say our fifth graders this year going into sixth grade were our COVID kindergarten students. So again, not making any excuses for that, but we have some things to deal with there. So Tom, to answer your question, like what specifically, I haven't dug into that yet, and I'm going to be curious to see, correlations with other data that comes out. But I'm super proud of what happens with that, and that's the training we've done with the curriculum, that's the work we've done, and what I can say is all of the fourth grade teachers in the district meet and work together. So that's Cohasset, that's Big Fork, and that's East. When we get together and we do trainings, they do that together. So barriers to success or improvement, some of these are still the same. Limited budget resources that impact staffing, materials, professional development, administrator shortages, staff serving multiple roles, just lack of time. That's everyone. High instructional demands. These materials that we're purchasing take a lot to prep and do and be ready. And so there's a lot with that. Substitute shortages is difficult, as I hear from teachers. Making sure that the learning doesn't stop. And then obviously changes in state policy, just creating that uncertainty. A lot of that we really can't control, but being able to go through them. So changes for the upcoming year. We have a comprehensive K-12 math curriculum, which we will be implementing the new math standards a year early. They don't have to be implemented until 27-28. The new math MCA test will be the spring of 28, so we're getting ahead of this a year in advance. Implementation of math practices district-wide, and those go along with the new standards. Continuing coaching, professional development, walkthroughs to support strong instruction. We are transitioning, so I showed you that information on STAR data. We are transitioning in grades 3 through 12 to CAPT Read Basics. This is currently the dyslexia screener from this past school year for grades 4 through 12. We only gave it to students who are at the 50th percentile and below. Through 5th grade, 30th percentile and below for 6 through 12. We're transitioning all 3 through 12 are going to take it. Then we don't have to take 2 tests. So then it's an extra cost, etc. So we're just narrowing that down to 1 test. Finalize and support inventory efforts district-wide and continue to enhance and refine principal leadership. I think Mr. Gross spoke to it, but a couple weeks ago we had some principal trainings, which was amazing to be able to do that. Questions? Comments? think this is spot, right? Because the people talking about this since I got it 9 years ago. Like, to have all the schools, because that was the biggest complaint from the parents when I first got on the school board was each class, of course, they didn't know things that like things look different. How they saw math, how they saw reading, really different. And we still have difficulties, right? The work has it, but now they have to. That would like right? Instruction, which is amazing. It's amazing that the teachers on it. As far as telling books, in the 80s and 90s, we actually physically turn the book. And if we didn't turn the books, we had to pay for it. In the 80s, we had to pay for it. Did anyone else sandpaper the pencil marks? I sandpapered pencil marks off the edge of my book because otherwise you got fined for pencil marks. Yeah. So that's not, that's not. That's just for you idea.
Any other thoughts or comments for Carol Turtles? Except for presentation.
Thank you.
Detailed. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll take the short break of about 5 minutes and reconvene at 6:30.
We were to see the numbers.
Rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation and under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That said, we have approved the agenda today. The motion. Moved by Ashley. Second by Mark. Second by Mark. Discussion on the agenda. Hearing none. All in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. We have, I have, David Marty, I'm chairing today. Our chairman, Dave Collins, is out with, excuse absence today. Expect that. Future, all the board members are here. With that said, let's face the process to approve your 26-27 local literacy plan. Carol, you're back on duty.
Okay, so this is the 25-26 literacy report looking ahead to 26-27. So it's both things, just so you know. And we are required by the READ Act to submit this by June 15th every year. Money is tied to it, of course. And so I will go through here again. Please ask questions. Some of it is going to be, you've seen it already. So this is just a summary of our report submitted on June 6th. So here are some highlights, and I'm going to dig into this more. Every K-3 grade gained ground from fall to spring last year. Every single grade. We did a pilot of morphology in grades 3, 4, and 5 to see if we really needed it. 13% gain in the classes that piloted that. I'll go into that more. And 100% of our K-5 teachers, special education teachers, and administrators have completed phase 1 training if they were required to do so. And I'll get into that more in a second. Oh, all right. So the READ Act and our literacy plan. So the Minnesota READ Act's goal is for every child to read at or above grade level every single year. So with dedicated support for multilingual learners and students receiving special education services. So here in 318, we screen all students matching the instruction and interventions to need through multi-tiered systems of support. And this plan then has to be updated. So MTSS and the literacy plan really go hand in hand. I am still serving as the local literacy lead. Every district has to have one or contract with one. We use the MTSS framework, screening windows. We do that 3 times a year. And then transparency, this plan is posted on our website and is on MDE's website. So it's all there, and I think you all have it in your board packet as well. It's a barn burner. You should sit and read it. It's exciting. So what I want to ask you as board members, superintendent, what does the READ stand for in the READ Act? And don't Google it. Anyone? Okay, I want to make sure that you know, and I thought, oh gosh, make sure I have every word. So it's reading to ensure academic development. Reading to ensure academic development. So that's what the READ and the READ Act stands for, just a little trivia. So key takeaway from this is our 2026 or 26-27 focus on equitable K-12 literacy system, a strong tier 1 instruction, that's for all students, deeper tier 2 and tier 3 supports, better use of data, and sustained educator capacity. So I talked to you about those K-3 gains. So this was kindergarten to 3rd grade from fall to spring last year. Kindergarten up 13 points, 1st grade 12, 3rd grade up 12, and 2nd grade up 6. Again, it's huge. So every grade, every K-3 grade level improved during the screening windows, which is the clearest signal that all the training, all the working, the comprehensive curriculum is working. We just have to trust the process. Questions on that? Secondary, so here's some challenges. is proficiency starts to dip in the secondary grades for a lot of reasons. We don't have enough time tonight to talk about all the reasons, but so you can see, so starting at third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and then you can kind of see, you can see the lowest point is in 10th grade at 27%, and this would have been on the STAR test, so the same test that we talked about earlier, so this is on the STAR test. Grades 4 through 12 last year did that CAPT reading basics. 4 and 5 were 50th percentile and below took that test. 6 through 12 were the 30th percentile and below. This is what I need you to know, is that secondary slide is why we have to strengthen tier 1 at the secondary level. And this is why our secondary teachers are just starting to do the training that our K-5 teachers and our special education teachers and administrators do. So it's really important. Again, some things to note. We still have really great teachers here too. Adolescence happens at this time, and so if you're a parent, you kind of understand what you're dealing with. Some of it is test apathy, which we're trying to strengthen some of those kind of testing protocols across the district. So, yeah. Questions about this one? One thing to note, and I think I mentioned it later, we are working with our 9-12 teachers on the science of reading. We're talking about guaranteed viable curriculum, so we're working on that. That process has started also. Universal dyslexia screening in K3. So you can see here the percentage of students that have characteristics of dyslexia. Characteristics of dyslexia does not mean that they are dyslexic. So it just means they have characteristics, and then we use that to further find supports. In grades 4 through 12, students below the 50th percentile on STAR were given the CAPT read basics test.
What is a typical percentage for that actually do have dyslexia?
I don't have that number, but I can get it for you. You don't either? I'm just writing it.
Carol, kind of to piggyback off what Tom said, like,
Yep.
once we figure that out, it's 4 through 12 is the grade levels. How do we, could we just start the process, right? And so how do we catch those kids in high school?
Right.
And not like a 50-year-old person, how do we catch that and try to do something?
So not easy, and I'm secondary English teacher, so not easy. And I had students that were reading on first or second grade level all the way through high school level. Could be a whole nother like board workshop on this, but there is a bottleneck. So we've got things in place that kind of like opens the bottleneck up. We are getting our teachers the skills. That's why it's training. Ashley, the secondary training for teachers, because we never really had that as a secondary teacher on the science of reading. We never did. And so to be able to do that, to provide interventions, things in the classroom, what should happen in a tier 1 classroom, what should happen in tier 2 and 3. I can tell you that we're doing morphology, grades 3, 4, and 5. Morphology is word parts that we did when we were back in school. Grades 3, 4, and 5, which is if students can't break down a word, they get stuck on that. And then we are also adding that into 6th grade. Sixth grade kind of has an intervention time, and we're adding morphology into that as well. So we're hoping we're going to see some really good gains with some of those things. Did that answer your question? I know. I can't tell you with all of this. It's another thing I can talk about all night. Is 1 in 5 Americans are functionally illiterate. So it is very real. It is something that I'm aware of like every day. We want to make sure that we're sending our students out able to function. So what's working? Functional morphology. We piloted this in grades 3, 4, and 5. It was piloted with Fidelity. So myself and Zach, we went through training. We have training here in December, starting in January. We implemented in classrooms, and we have a training with the University of Minnesota. It was a data-backed adoption, so we took our data back to the literacy committee with the results and the teacher feedback and talked about moving forward. And it will be scaled up this fall to every third, fourth, and fifth grade class. Teachers that did not take the training last December will do it Thursday of this week. We have an in-house teacher, Polly Olson, who's going to do the training for us. And again, we gained 13% growth on those classrooms that piloted that. And Tom, going back a little to your question earlier, to what do I attribute that big gain? Some of it may have been from morphology because that was happening before their final STAR test as well. So just another variable. So our MTSS, our multi-tiered system of supports. So we have tier 1, 2, and 3. So under our tier 1 for literacy, we use UFly Foundations, which was new last year in K2. Functional phonics and morphology 3.5, Wit and Wisdom, which we're moving into year 3. Arts and Letters is a new name for you, but basically it's Wit and Wisdom pared down so we can teach it at the middle school. We don't have 90-minute blocks at the middle school, so we had to find something. And the same company, it's the same books, it's all of the things. It's just a shorter amount of time. And that's what we had a training on today. 912 is in progress, and then we have GEOs, which is in K2, and it's a bridge between foundational reading and knowledge building. For the first time, I guess morphology is new. I was going to say we don't really have anything too new on there. Tier 2 supplemental, so this is just those targeted small groups. These are the things that we're using this year: Lexia, Core 5, Power Up, Press. I've got a big sheet to show you in a minute. Rewards, progress monitored weekly, and their state-approved intervention programs. For us to use money on these interventions, they have to be state-approved. We could use other things, we just couldn't use the money for that. And then under the intensive 95 wrap, Cloquet is seeing really great results out of 95 wrap. And so our middle school kind of took a page from Cloquet, and so we're going to kind of follow their model. Smaller groups, more minutes, weekly progress monitoring, frequent data team review, and these are also state intervention programs.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
As we talk about these state-approved intervention programs, are there programs out there that we found that states missing out? I mean, bottom line.
Not to my knowledge. I'm going to look at Justin. To your knowledge, are there things that aren't on the state list that should be? No. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive, Tom.
And the reason I ask is, looking for them, that's that want to talk to them, right? If there's something that teachers are finding is working for them and it's not an approved list,
right?
We need to make that priority for this. Right?
And I can get this for you too if you want it, but both the tier 1 curriculum and then the ones for tier 2 and tier 3 went through a pretty serious vetting process with rubrics and everything. So they had to meet the criteria for X, Y, or Z. And if they didn't meet it, they didn't get on the list.
I think something worth mentioning too, let's see, careful here. The University of Minnesota has been heavily involved in the state's literacy work, and that makes me feel very confident because they have some really, really good research faculty and departments there. I'm not sure that it's always been the case that there's been that emphasis put on academia or using, tier 1 research institution or backyard to provide that expertise. And so I think it's a reason to come up with this.
And just one thing, I guess I'm not saying that, but last year we had that list found by the state, and it didn't help us. And so we went back, right? And then we went back. So we were little also. We picked something that
Right.
wasn't as effective as some reason why.
So this, Zach Erickson put this together for us. I would be willing to bet that most districts don't have something like this, and so I'm really proud of the work that Zach has done here. So this is on one page. This is all of our interventions that we have for tier 2 and tier 3. So you can see the different tiers, what we're using, what grade level. This is all the way through 12th grade. So this is what we're doing in K-12. There's a lot more options for literacy. You can see I do have math on there because it's all on one page. I do want you to see too that the math intervention, I know this wasn't a math, but the math intervention is also the same curriculum as our tier 1 math. So for the first time ever, our math interventions are going to match the language, the scope, etc. Of our tier 1. It's exciting. But these are the things that we're using. We have trainings happening behind the scenes. We're training new teachers, etc., to be able to do that. So professional development is on track. As I mentioned earlier, 100% of our required K-5 special education and administrators completed phase 1. This was a huge undertaking, and any new teachers last year that fell into those things, they had to do it. The HR department here has been amazing, helping me keep track, because that's my job, is to keep track of the certification for everybody. They've been helping me keep track. Something that's unheard of, I think, across the country, and what a lot of people don't realize, is every one of our paraprofessionals went through 8 hours of structured literacy training this school year in 2 hour chunks, because it's a lot. 103 paraprofessionals are trained. And so now we have to do that with any ones that are starting, but that doesn't happen necessarily across the country. So Minnesota paid for that, and that's just really important. And we did that in-house. Nancy Koenig and I did that in-house. And then the last box is Strive. That's our phase 2 training, and our teachers are starting that now, and that has to be completed by July 1st of 2027. Questions on that?
Carol, I think one of the things that we're talking about too is, we're talking about this training and making this all work. I'm really grateful for the relationship and support that we've had, the collaboration we've had with our bargaining unit or bargaining units. We've had to agree MOUs all time outside of the real day. And I don't think those have gone as well in other places, and so I'm really grateful for the relationship we have with our unions, our teaching group, our parent group to do this stuff.
Yeah, and it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of training, but it's support. So we're supporting people along the way. So literacy aid funds. I mentioned earlier we have to do literacy plans to get the literacy aid money. And so the funds go for some of these things. So supplemental core and intervention materials across the grade levels. We are researching comprehensive 9-12 literacy curriculum, guaranteed and viable curriculum. It goes towards the ongoing readout training, coaching, and curriculum support, literacy materials, professional development. Looking ahead to 26-27, so continuous improvement. I brought some goals to our literacy committee in the spring, and so these are the goals for 26-27. To build an equitable K-12 literacy system, strengthening Tier 1 instruction district-wide, strengthening Tier 2 and 3 supports within MTSS, improve the use of assessment and data for decisions, and building that sustainable educator capacity. Just continuing all of these things. And then key changes for next year, I mentioned that we're moving to CAP D read basics for grades 3 through 12, moving away from STAR reading. We will still have STAR math. Curriculum functional morphology becomes a Tier 1 core in grades 3, 4, and 5. Families, all families will receive a letter about screening and not just students that are below grade level. All families, all students deserve to know where they're at. And then continued support, direct teacher phone calls before those tier 2 intervention groups. Questions? Oh, wait, I have one more thing, and then I'll be done. I know Jill wants to go. One thing I'm proud of that was not in the presentation, well, two things, is to continue to bring books and literacy to our families. So I wrote a couple of grants last year. One of them, I used the money to buy these books, Look Out Kindergarten, Here I Come. So these are going to be sent for all brand new kindergarten families. So that's going to go home from, that was from a grant. And then the other thing I'm really proud of, and I should have highlighted, was that lots of our literacy standards focus on Dakota and Anishinaabe. And as a 30-year English teacher veteran, I always knew we were supposed to, but we just didn't know how. And we didn't have the resources. But our teachers are working so hard, along with state resources, along with Tans Henderson, along with our local people, to try to authentically embed things. And so I just have a couple books here if you want to read them. So one of them is The Legend of the Loon. So again, tied to Minnesota, but it's on legend, so pulling that in. And then the other one is on the Water Walker. And these are in 3rd and 4th grade. And so just authentic text that we're bringing in to tie, and it's not just checking the box. So we're not perfect yet, but we're working on getting there. Question?
Those texts you just mentioned are so they're available in the classroom. The first one you said going out there, right? But the additional ones you mentioned there, are they just accessible in the classroom, or how are they?
So the Water Walker, I think this one, I think maybe it's a one per teacher. So I think this is 3rd grade. This might be 4th grade or 4th grade, 3rd grade, etc. We had some teachers work this summer on really trying to fit in those standards, and so they were pulling out resources so they would have a copy of that. And then also, Tom, I do work with Tracy at the library, and every year she's kind of set up a little station for some of our books. So I'll talk to her. Except the library's only open 3 days a week. So yes, so to answer, if you, and I think I might have some copies, so if it's something you want to take and read and get back to me, you do that.
Julie, would you mind going back to the end of Carol's report? The slide for the questions. It's kind of somewhere between 26, 27 local.
You have them on the spot, right?
The one.
Are you able to go back?
There.
That one?
That's yeah, today we to approve 26, 27 local literacy plan. Need a motion? Ashley. Second. Second by Melissa. Discussion on this. Extensive report on this. Detail. Is you mentioned the reports going to all parents once a year, or
we don't send the reports out. Oh, I thought you were talking about the, I was going to say, I'm not sending the literacy plan to all of our parents. Yes, so the reports will go home to families after every screening window, so 3 times a year. Yep.
No matter.
Can expect that.
Should expect that. So parents can obviously see that slide and try to.
Correct. Help us if possible. We did have a question from a principal to see possibly if there was a way to digitize some of that, because things get, especially in middle school and high school, things get lost. Especially.
Yeah. So how does that go? Mailing, or we say it goes out, I guess, per email.
It depends on the building. Jill, does yours go home with students? I would say most go home with students.
Kind of like all the rest of the departments.
Right.
One of the things we're working on this fall is a consolidated communication system system that we use in all our districts. We're optimistic about its ability to send materials like this home. That we really have that now. So we're optimistic.
I just think you guys did not work. That's not a comment.
Good questions. Any other questions or thoughts before we take the vote? We have a motion and a second. All in favor to approve the 26-27 local literacy plan, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The literacy plan is approved. Thank you. Our next issue is a principal report from Bradlett's Elementary. Matt, do you want to vote before we start with the report?
Yeah, we received an email this last week that there were 97 schools recognized as champions of positive school culture and behavior. And to put this in perspective, there are about 2,700 public schools in this. And 97 were recognized. We had 2 in our district that were. East Rapids Elementary, where Jill's principal was one. Glass Elementary, where Jill was, and 4 is one. So she's leaving her mark and putting good things in place. So thanks for seeing that. No pressure.
Yeah, that's funny that yes, you did receive that recognition. Thank you to staff for all their hard work. And that's actually one of our goals this year is to make our PBS even better. I'll get to that in a second. But staff have been busy at East. When I say staff, secretaries and the custodians have been very busy. East is a busy place in the summer. We have lots of people using our gym, which is great. Volleyball teams, basketball teams all summer. And we have summer Marine Academy there and BSY. So our custodians are scrambling right now to get the entire school cleaned in this little bit of time. So just always appreciate their, I don't know, the children they're all period. They never stop. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. And I know that they go home at night, so they're the best custodians I've ever seen in my life. They're amazing. So they will have everything ready for when the teachers get back, which is great. No one's looking for student desks or chairs, or it's a big deal to a teacher to have your stuff ready to go. Master schedule. We have some tweaks with our master schedule this year. With the demands of teaching morphology, we want to have at least 60 minutes, if not more, for written wisdom. At least in our data, we noticed we need a little time set aside in our schedule for teachers to instruct fluency in Tier 1, also with Tier 2, I believe, but definitely within the classroom, and some MCA test prep so that our students not only just have a couple weeks before those exams in April, but the whole year is really prepared for what that looks like to take a standardized test in their life. So to do all that in our day, we needed some time. So we're going to be starting school at 8:15, our bell will ring, versus 8:25. Our students will still have 25 minutes to do their morning tasks. The staff is thrilled about this. Just the kids have to be really efficient when they come to East. And the school-wide routines have to be really dialed in, and the whole school has to be ready to follow it. We know we can do that. We're also taking a little time off of recess, and we're still following the state guidelines in lunch. Just fixing up some efficiency so that we can gain more time to make sure we fit in all of our instructional time that we need to, so that our kids are ready to when they go to middle school. And then just to focus with the staff too. The other piece of having a schedule is that fidelity of time is a really big deal to me and to a school, and it can make the impact of the percentages increases you saw today. You have to follow the schedule as much as you can, and we'll be flexible too, but the more we adhere to those learning times, it's really, really important and impactful. Curriculum focus, like Carol had mentioned, we're in year 3 of Wit and Wisdom, hard to believe. And typically curriculums take 3 to 5 years to be fully like we're ready to go. So excited for year 3. We'll have year 1 of our new math, and then full implementation of morphology, year 1. Also exciting, Anna is going to be serving as our Dean of Students. She was our behavior interventionist about mid-year last year. Some things that have shifted because she's Dean. We need some help with some lesson interventions, and she knows exactly what to do, which is going to be great. We just want our data shows that some of our ODRs are higher than our leadership team and myself would like on us. So we're going to focus on that to get those decreased. Our PBIS. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, office discipline referrals. That's what we use to figure out what students need. Absolutely. Our PBIS, we received the exemplar recognition, but we definitely need to increase student component. So I'm going to have an online still student council. We're going to call it the hard hat group. And so kids will fill out application and work on that, but they're going to be excited we need to have some more student voice and some student leadership to increase our PBIS efforts. Through our PBIS efforts, another area in our school, you have PBIS, we need to constantly kind of analyze what could be better at your school and our school cafeteria. So we're going to have to provide some training, active supervision training for our cafeteria supervision staff. We're going to have clear and consistent kind of like a tiered system for when students need some support and helping. There's some, maybe increased intervention time at that time. So we're going to have that for the students. I think which will help because we want our cafeteria to be a social place, but it has to be safe. And staff and students need to enjoy their time while they're in the cafeteria. And just supporting the staff recognition too. I have my leadership team reading the book The Hard Hat by John Gordon. And so we're just going to have a team effort of really focusing on kind of leading for me and a team effort at least. And that is it for now. Any questions?
Just congratulations again. Really support and effort students are making. Classic, and it just shows really the love that you're giving to all of our staff and students and support staff. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Children against the board, please share our support, pride, and your staff. We are really proud of you and the staff. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next issue is to approve the minutes of July 20th regular school board. The motion. Mark. And second.
Second, Ashley.
Second, Ashley. Any comments, notes, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes, signify by saying aye. Opposed to the minutes, signify by the same sign. Minutes approved. Approved the June 2026 claims in the amount of $7,752,281.90. Motion. Moved by Lisa. Second by Mark. Second by Mark. No other comments on the claims? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the claims, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved. Claims are approved for June 2026. We have a resolution to accept donations and gifts for April, May, and June. We're required as a board to officially receive these gifts. April 2026 was $45,730. May was $52,642.78, and June was $11,555.20. Any motion to approve? Motion by Mark.
Second by Ashley.
Motion by Mark, second by Ashley. Any notes or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you for communicating all who gave to support the school in so very many ways. All in favor of accepting these donations gifts, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The gifts are accepted. We have one retirement. Julie Pettis, bus driver who's been driving with us for 18 years. Is stepping down. We're actually miss Julie. For the approval for the resignation.
So, Ashley.
Action. Second was the retirement. All of the retirement supervisors say aye. All same sign. Congratulations, Julie. The consent agenda. All matters listed in the consent agenda are staff related or considered routine and do not require discussion. These items will be acted upon together in one motion. If discussion is desired on a particular item, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately by the board. And you see 5 issues in the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the consent agenda. Motion by Mark. Motion by Mark. Second by Melissa. Withdrawing these names. All in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Done. Then we have large category to approve 26, 27 Grand Rapids area schools handbooks. Each of these handbooks has been revised. There are links to that as handbooks. You see that there are a total of 12 handbooks. Are you comfortable passing these as one motion? Yes. Okay. That's what we've done. Need a motion to approve the 26, 27 school handbooks. Motion by Mark. Second by Melissa. Motion by Mark, second by Melissa. Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
This is a quick question. Mr. Superintendent, are these handbooks going to be, or is there a link that will be sent out to the public, to inform them that they have been updated for the 26 or 27 school year?
Yeah, they can communicate out to families.
Okay. Thank you. They're also available. Yes.
Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? All in favor of accepting the handbooks, signify by saying aye. Opposed to the handbooks, same sign. Handbooks stand approved. The second reading of policy 103.
Yeah, you saw this at the last meeting or your first reading. Again, language that wasn't aligned with those rules. Process was streamlined and people streamlined. Our policy review committee reviewed this and comes with their recommendations.
Motion.
So, Ashley.
Actually, was seconded. Policy 103 in place. Any questions or concerns or thoughts? Now, for anybody? All in favor of accepting policy 103 in place, etc., signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The policy 103 stands approved. Matt, you've done a lot of first readings on policies.
Yeah, our last policy review committee was a busy one. We took a look at all of these policies, and these are included for our first reading, so actions right.
Okay. No questions or comments on that. Then we to review the memorandum of understanding with the task force head start. Justin, do you want Good evening, Justin.
Good evening. Yeah, so this is just more or less replacing the home safety partnership that we already share with them. There's no additions outside of what is expected by federal and state law.
Okay. Motion to accept the MOU.
So moved, Ashley.
Ashley, second by Mark, second by Mark. Any questions or thoughts for Justin or anyone about the Head Start MOU? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed to accepting the MOU, same sign. The memorandum is passed, so thank you. Approval of purchasing services with Lake City Public Schools, MTSS. Matt?
You heard Zach Erickson saying a number of times tonight from Carol, yes, you know, the position that Zach taken was not replaced. And that was an MTSS position that really, I believe, got our district moving with MTSS years ago. Jen Shadeen was in that role, and Zach took over. It's been really instrumental in setting up those systems, keeping those systems going. And we did distribute some of the work from that position, but it's been clear that there are some oversight and performing and system. We saw the intervention program that we put together for us this upcoming year. Those are the kinds of things that Zach has been doing in the background, and it's my recommendation that we buy some time from Will City or maybe continue to do that work for us. The principals are taking on a great deal of work, running the committees in their own buildings. Gabe, which was part of Zach's job, that was going to write CV, sovereignty, ELL, the language learner, it's going to Carol. So we did parse out a lot of that work, but there's some MTSS work that we're not quite sure we're ready to. I'm confident we're not quite ready to take on entirely, and so I was able to work this off with Will City. It's just where we're going.
Motion?
So moved, Ashley.
Ashley, second? Second, Mark. Second by Mark. The motion and the second to approve service agreement with Hill City for MTSS support. Comments, thoughts? I know we've got very limited with, I mean, what you're proposing for time that we need to report right now is not a lot. Going forward, though, if we're to bring this in house, you know, right now we don't see a spot that we distributed it, right? We've already got a full plate, for lack of a better term. What is your, I mean, do you have a vision yet, or?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that we can look at in the future. One of them is looking at our administrative team. Anybody can pick up some of that work. Our duties as we become more comfortable. I think Carol's position has been complete over time, and she's got her hands full with implementing math curriculum and language arts curriculum and science. So she's got her hands full. So I think there are some options, but it's going to be one of those things that will require a lift from. So we just sort of thinking maybe some of these other programs roll into the wing side or something like that. Right. Right.
Yeah. There's no educational or certification type requirements that are restricting us in any way.
No, we use different funding sources. We use pay for STEM work, especially teacher training. So there's some options there too. He was at the position that he was in previously. It was sort of I think we had about 5 different finance codes moving into that position, and so we'll piece some of that together again.
Any questions or comments?
I appreciate the consideration. So I really do.
I appreciate We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of services from the city. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The agreement is approved. One more agreement, cooperative agreement, 360 arrest.
Yes, this, we were approached by Greenway to put together or to form a cooperative for wrestling. They had been collaborating with Xbox for some time. I did inquire with the Xbox to see what their intentions were. The numbers that are really with Greenway and Ashlock are not very good. And so, Ashlock was okay with the dissolution of the co-op on their side. They had some equipment to work through. And so I had contact with Dr. Lutheran from there to make sure that they were going to be okay. That Ashlock's going to be a partner of ours, and so I wanted to make sure that was ongoing. There are a lot of decisions that go into these cooperatives, and we have a process internally for checking some boxes, and that has to do with one of them is this office to go up a class, is their support with coaches and school. There's a variety of those. This route requires to go up a class. The head coach is on board with this. I talked to Principal Austin and activity director. They will support it. Sometimes the cooperatives is a reformation of the entire team. I think maybe there's more parity between the two schools, and the numbers are similar. You have the light table tennis and the girls hockey, but this is a situation where 90% of wrestlers will probably be underdogs, and so the rest of all this stuff will stay. So building the high school and we get cost sharing, where the students are pretty well responsible for the costs of the warships and other avenues they have.
Get this started with the motion.
So moved, actually.
Second. Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
Thank you for having me. I was thinking about the we just have such good relationships with us, and now I'm glad that culture is so important. I mean, this is similar to other things we have with the classes and others employees. And they want more kids playing.
Thank you. Any other comments, any questions, any concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agreement with Greenway for wrestling, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we have an agreement with ISC 318. Board member reports, and let's go start with you. Sorry, Meg. I actually have nothing to report myself here. Perfect. Nancy.
I as well. I am awesome. And my favorite.
Thank you. Nothing to report. Some people like balls. I actually worked at the policy. Very engaging. Next, what do we hear from the superintendent?
Yeah, I wanted to update you on a couple things that we improved on, and that we're going on the one of the school districts, and so to keep on some slides that we don't as well. The first one just has to do with the purchase of trust fund constitutional amendment, and if you've been paying attention to the news, that's starting to get more and more awareness. So I just wanted to sort of throw some brief information out there. I didn't invite Paul Potier to come and take a deeper dive into this issue. He was part of the task force that worked on this heavily. He was very, very much part of the advocacy effort behind it. And makes sense. All right, so now
It's not working. Okay. Probably has to wake up a little bit.
all right, so just a few pieces of information and there's more details on the sheet that you have. School trust lands were identified as a state by the 1858. These lands were designated for schools, although the land got used for schools, some of it never did. And over the course of time, that land was traded, was sold, and leased, and the proceeds from those were put into a trust and then generated revenue for schools. And that trust is managed by the State Board of Investment, and it's intended to provide funding. It's general fund funding for us. And what's happened over time is that fund has outgrown the distribution channel, I guess is a good way to say it. So there's currently $2.3 billion in that fund. This task force that was formed. Sorry.
That's all right.
The task force brought back a number of recommendations to the legislature. They investigated far and wide how trusts are handled in other states that are similar. They also looked at trusts that colleges have, the governments, all those distributed, and the common number that is distributed for endowments is 5%. The task force recommended 4.5%. They also recommended rolling average over the previous 3 years to provide additional cushion for the ups and downs of the markets and things like that. So one of the big concerns and protections that they wanted to make sure is that they protected the future of the fund, not just look out for its current state, and the 4.5% is within that within that range. This the change for our school district would be would bring our annual revenue to an estimated $422,577. That's based on a projection of 3,800 students, up from 284, so it would be a change of about $138,000. You know, in the context of the $70 million budget, it's not a huge number, but this is money that can come to schools from a trust. It's not going to cost any taxpayers any more money. The money is just sitting in a trust for schools. So it's will help us keep people in programs. That'll help us for sure. So we're really grateful for it, and I think it's really really good thing that the task force did a really good job of looking under all the rocks and doing a due diligence investigation. The ballot, because this is a constitutional amendment, this works differently than other voting arrangements. Because this constitutional amendment, it requires a majority vote of everyone who casts a ballot. So this isn't counting yeses and counting noes. It's counting ballots and dividing by 2. People have to approve the vote. And so that means that if someone leaves their ballot blank, that's practically the same as voting no. And when people are looking at voting strategy and amendments like this, that really is the biggest risk with this particular amendment is that people won't complete their ballot. And so I think that's one thing that we have to be very measured and careful with. Advocacy efforts and certainly it's within our right as a school district to encourage people to make sure to call their home ballot, follow through the soil conservation districts and all the other judges and all those other things that are on the back. This will be on the back and on the bottom. And so people need to get through the ballot, make sure to put this out. School Association is saying, start with the back, bottom of the ballot, and work your way forward. That's a way to help make sure that everyone's voting on this very, very important matter. Another thing that's included in my slide deck is included in the information packet. If you look at the map of this one that piece of paper, the vast majority of these trust lands are in northern Minnesota. So I think that's a really interesting fact. Most of that money that's generated up here. So encourage people to vote and make sure they vote their home ballot. It's more money for schools without tax increase. This isn't a shift of money from the state to schools. This was just money in for schools.
When we had talked briefly about it before, you know, where is it in regards to bringing yourself public before us? I mean, how can we want people, is it a public concern that we take over with, let's say, there's registration?
The only thing as a school district or an elected official in the school district, you can't tell people how to vote. Yeah. Otherwise, in terms of awareness and leading with the facts, I think this is one of those issues that people that are getting the word out are fighting. Once people have 5 minutes of the information, it's very quickly a supportive conversation. There is a number of organizations in the state have pooled resources to create an advocacy effort. And so there is a website that's been created that's dedicated to advocacy. They hired a director to help with the campaign. There's also a lot of factual information that's been created by the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, MREL, and one other organization that are putting out information. So we, as a school district, will be, like I say, after this meeting tonight, kicking it off, we'll be publicizing some of that information and repeating it. There's a video that's been made, a video that explains it really, really well. And so we'll be sharing that information on our socials. We'll also include it in our fall community connector newsletter that will go in October.
So one of the things I think of as soon as I see, you know, discussion about school trust properties, right? I always think of that as commentary. We've got the display in one building talking about school trust properties, right? Is it long for us to have this flyer there and ask someone? I don't know who it is at the state, so I can't remember who has it, but I know it's kind of.
Yep. It was a really brands is getting a big deal on this.
You have more community facing paper like this that would get if there's
Like I said, I remember one building fair having a big display every year of school trust properties, right? So it's got a background of all of it. I can't remember the building. But I think that would be a perfect fit for it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good
Because just what you meant, honestly, if you look at the density of color, Castle County is probably the
so the world's supposed to be this
blue. You know?
yeah.
It's just fun
And for something that's really strict as a constitutional amendment, just in the scope of things that were passed in the spring, there really wasn't anything that's usually as difficult that passed by such an overwhelming margin. I think it was unanimous in the Senate and maybe almost unanimous in the House or vice versa. It had broad bipartisan support. And you're right, Melissa. Senator Igo, representative, really championed this. So,
well, and the challenge always is, we've got 3 sentences on the ballot, right? Yeah. I mean, how you convey a message on a ballot, right? Somebody's not going to want to read all of that. Right? So.
All right. The second thing that I want to give you an update on is under the most important benefits. This is something we've been talking about for a couple of years and longer, really. If you look back How we got to this point today, for aides, retiree benefits, and the compensation packages, and we've spoken about how the region of the state that we happen to be in was influential in what those benefit packages looked like, and in many cases, when the benefits were given, the benefits were a lot less expensive, and the value of the benefits was much less. And so those benefits became very expensive, and if we rewind back almost 20 years now, our liability became more visible because GASB 45 was introduced that required us to report on income liability. And there was a 2-year window where districts could create trusts and borrow money essentially to fund the trusts. And our school district did that. So $35 million in bonds that funded about 53% of the liability at the time. And between 2009 and 2025, that trust paid almost $52 million in retiree premiums that we were obligated to. And in fiscal 25 to 28, we began to phase out that trust. We knew that it was going to be completed rather than spend it all its completeness all at once. We phased it out and began phased the goal just to help mitigate or soften the impacts to taxpayers. Over time, the fact that there was not enough money originally bonded for medical expenses and health insurance costs were up faster than people anticipated. We're living longer, we have more retirees, all that caused our liability to go up to $126 million. You'll see here a little bit. That model at that time separated how the benefits were funded from bond repayment. Again, we borrow money, and I put my diagram on the handout for you again, where the district establishes the trust, then the district funds the trust by borrowing money, and then that trust pays for the retiree costs, and the district levies to make the loan payment essentially. So we've always been levying for open costs. It's just that for all 17 years, we were essentially levying for loan payments. And the benefit of doing that at that time was we had money sitting in the account that was really more interested in paying, and the payments were level, so we didn't plan. So that's why those trusts generally work out. But we also could not put more money back into the trust. The trust is gone. There's nothing that can be used for their costs. All right, Julie.
It goes to sleep.
Like I said, the trust now, and so that changes how the funding works. For the last couple of years, we started to use our general fund to pay part of it. We used the trust to pay part of it again, so we could not have all of that general fund and levy hit our taxpayers all at once. And so we paid for some of the general fund. I think the first year we paid for $500,000, we paid for $500,000, and then used the trust to pay for the balance. And we've been building that up. So this year we paid for $2 million on the trust, or on the general fund, and then $2 million, paid the rest on the trust. And so we pay up front, and then we submit for reimbursement essentially through our levy. Because of the size of our liability that was identified, $126 million in fiscal 25, this became our next big thing we needed to work through, because that number was the biggest in the state. It was going to cause big tax impacts for our community, and so we began by doing research and identifying what some possible options were. We had a number of board workshops and briefings about it. A number of letters to retirees after we landed on the strategy to have our retirees transition to a Medicare funded supplement plan. Held a number of meetings with retirees. They requested that we get
I'm sorry.
a similar quote from health partners, we needed to make sure that any plan that we were going to be proposing had an aggregate value that was as good or better that's required. And so we went with our Fringe Benefit Committee, worked through the process, the Q&As, board changed last October, and went through implementation in the fall of last year. The quote from all partners ended up in the request from the retirees because that's the plan that they were used to, or the area that they're used to. They ended up meeting that the all partners plan couldn't compete with the one that we see from the Ross, so that's the direction we're going. What changed the plan for the retiree experience to some degree? There's some different network rules, plan design was a little bit different, there's some different cost sharing. Responsibility in terms of the financial contribution or portion we were required to pay. But again, we had to keep the aggregate values better, and those plans became more predictable. And I passed on to our staff and our benefits department, Michelle, our officer, helping to make that hand off go well and work through any trade-offs that might exist. We received we've been waiting on this actuarial study to be done, and we received it last week, confirmation. Our total OPEB liability is decreasing from 126 million to 49 million as a result of this change, which is a very, very significant drop, even more significant than I expected. And specifically, we identified the changes to the retiree post-65 medical plan as being the predominant reason. So I think it's worth, while the strategy and the planning process was really the district doing its due diligence, I do want to acknowledge our retirees for working with the district on this, recognizing that it was going to be a problem, and going along with the change. There was a lot of concern right at the beginning, and they did a great job of keeping an open mind about the process and the plan, and as a result, I think the numbers staggering that is going to be ultimately over time realized by the community and tax savings. So fiscal 25, I mentioned 126.15 million. Liability fell by 61% to 49.15. It's really important that folks recognize that that's not going to help our operating budget at all. It does help our cash flow because we are having to pay cash for these liabilities and the legacy bills, but it doesn't help our operations at all. But those are savings that go directly to our taxpayers over time. Given 76 million, it's almost 77 million. That's over time until our obligations are complete. That's how that number is calculated. We will continue with our annual benefits. That doesn't change. And again, the decrease in the cash is still that million there, but compared to 126 million, it's a lot better number. Can we get that around?
So not just we're not thinking 76
million
dollars.
This, over time, over the course of the obligation for these benefits, the taxpayers will save 77.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's great news. That's great news. Let's see. So again, how this will work, we'll pay first. This is what we've been doing. We've been bridging, we've been phasing this out. The reason being we wanted to make sure that this wasn't a big cliff for our taxpayers. And so this current year, for instance, we had $2 million in the levy, $2.3 million in the trust, and that will slowly step down over time. Ongoing costs will be about $2 million more per year for our local taxpayers. There is about $2 million left in the trust, and so that's part of the strategy moving forward. We could spend all that once, for sure that will be spent on OPEB over time. That will be saved for time. But be strategic about that, also keep our levy from having giant swings. Just a few bullets as we wrap up to the way for taxpayers. The first one is a recap of from the previous slide. We've been planning this for 3 years, and again, I think one of the stories that I hope is clear is that we're doing the best we can with the information we have to make good decisions for our taxpayers, to do what we can to help keep taxes as low as possible, and also to help solve the swings here for taxpayers. And then the last one, back to Melissa's question, this does help the cash flow situation, since we will have to cash flow it over $4 million like we would have. So it does help our cash flow situation. It does not help our operating budget or our bottom line. So I think that's important. It's really, really great for our taxpayers. That's certainly a goal. It's certainly something we set out to do. But we'll our operating budget. Questions on OPEB or simply back to the government social trust fund? Do you have more questions on that? Questions, comments?
Great reports, Matt. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. Meeting announcements. Julie, do we have any sign up to speak?
No one has signed up to speak.
Good, thank you. The upcoming school board committee is posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and on the designated posting site at the Educational Services Center. All the committee meetings. And I would remind everyone that tomorrow, the rest of the month, is the primary election day, and it's time to get out and vote for the primary case. Anything else before this board? Hearing none, we stand adjourned. Unless somebody wants to watch. Day West. No. Yeah, that's going to be a tricky.
Received the agenda for the last two meetings. I know. So I'm gonna talk to Gage about it, but I just wanted to let you know, because I did get the email that you sent out about the schools in recognition. I got that one. It's super weird. It's very intermittent. I'm not really quite sure why that is, but I just wanted to let you know.
But the one, just saying the board packet was released.
Didn't get it.
I'm gonna just check and see why. Okay, when it, when
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna ask Gage as well. Like, I get some things, but not all things, so I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, in case you're sending things out,
It's important.
I'm not responding.
That's so strange. Okay, thanks for letting